What would you say are the specific top 3 policies that have actually destroyed California?
In one of the books I wrote, I outlined a scenario, which was that I used to come here via Forest Lawn Drive, which is a long stretch of highway that runs along the cemetery. And it's kind of long. You guys may know it, and it doesn't have cross streets and stuff in it. So people tend to speed on Forest Lawn Drive because it's just long. And it's actually there's rarely any traffic on it. And people in LA, like when there's no traffic, they're like, all right, let's make up a little of this time. So the scenario is this: I would drive down Forest Lawn Drive. I would see on one side of Forest Lawn Drive a motorcycle cop who would back his bike up a driveway in a shaded kind of wooded area near the Jewish cemetery, which is next to Forest Lawn. And he'd be back there and he'd have his radar gun out and he'd be waiting for citizens to speed, you know? I'd see him pull over soccer moms and minivans, you know, because inevitably they're going 57 and it's 45 and they get pulled over. Okay, fine. On the other side of Forest Lawn Drive was many illegals selling flowers that they bought downtown to sell without a business license or any form of anything, just cash and carry. On the other side of the streets, a bunch of illegals selling flowers to people who are going to visit their dead Nana in a mausoleum. The city of Los Angeles, and in general California is this way, has no interest in the illegal activity on one side of the street. That's illegals here engaging in illegal behavior. Now, there is a florist up the street, and that person has to have all kinds of insurance and pay all kinds of taxes, and is going to get sued by an employee for wrongful termination, and OSHA's going to get involved and stuff like that. They will be vigorous, very vigorous compliance for the taxpayer, and it'll be very vigorous for the soccer mom. But the illegal, no problemo. If you go to SoFi Stadium, you can buy shots of tequila outside of SoFi Stadium while illegals sell you Tecate beer and ghetto dogs next to cops who are doing security. The city has declared a war on taxpayers and regulated them to death. But if you'd like to just sell food illegally, you can pop up on any corner or do whatever you want. And they walk right past those people and they never shut them down and they never send them a summons. And the city council agrees with this. They agree that you should be regulated out of business and taxed out of business. But if you want to create a street black market where you sold food, you can do it. And by the way, every time you send a health inspector over to my business, you're doing it under the guise of safety. Except for you don't have problems with people just cooking whatever food they want on a sidewalk and just selling it to people. No thoughts. So once the city, San Francisco's done this, and LA's done this, once you essentially look the other way for homeless or junkies or illegals or criminals or whatever that is, and you shine a spotlight on taxpayers with over regulation and over permitting and trying to manage every grain of your life versus illegals go do whatever you want, or homeless go shoot up wherever you want or sleep wherever you want, then you've lost it. And LA, yeah. LA's there. San Francisco's there. It's the difference. Look, if you're not a taxpayer and you don't have a checking account, whatever city you're in, they're not going to be nearly as interested in you as they are in the people who have a checking account and pay
people
taxes.
That can be compliant, basically. The people that are compliant.
The people that are compliant are paying them. So it's like, okay, who do you make money on? Like when you're a city and you need to keep the lights on in the city. Okay. Who do you go to? Well, I would go to Mark Garagos or Adam Carolla because those guys have businesses and we could charge them for, we charge them for a permit and we could charge them taxes and we could charge them land taxes or business taxes or whatever. Oh, okay. What about homeless guy with a load of shit in his pants over there? Well, that guy costs us money. He doesn't have anything. He costs us money. So you'd have to take him somewhere and incarcerate him or process him or put him in a housing or something. So that guy costs us money. These guys make us money. So then they went, well, why don't we focus full time on these guys? Because they make us money. Whereas the illegals and the homeless and the junkies, they cost us money. So you go, okay, well, that sounds like a plan. But you focus too hard on these guys start flourishing in terms of numbers. And then these guys go, fuck it, I'm moving to Nashville. Because I'm tired of you being up my ass if you're not going to do anything about these guys, because I'm running a business and these guys are camping in front of my business. And you guys want me to pay your taxes for my business, but you will not do anything with these guys. And when that starts, that's the beginning of the end of a society.
Do you think it's reversible? Hey everybody, here's a PSA, but Father's Day is coming up really quickly, and I have a feeling most of you have not bought anything for your dad yet.
And we also know dads are absolutely impossible to find gifts for, so we did the work for you, and we found a gift that your dad is going to genuinely love and actually use.
We've partnered with our friends at Chef IQ this Father's Day to get you 40% off the Chef IQ Sense, which is unlike any other product out there. For those unaware, the Chef IQ Sense is a wireless smart thermometer that connects to your phone and coaches you through cooking the perfect piece of meat every single time.
It literally takes all of the guessing out of cooking. You just stick the probe in and it tells you exactly when to flip, when to pull it off the heat, when to let it rest, and when it's ready to serve.
Your dad is going to have total confidence at the grill. In fact, there is no way you could screw up cooking with the Chef IQ Sense. And aside from the grill, it also works with the smoker, the oven, the stovetop, any protein, any method.
We actually just filmed a fun Father's Day video on the Iced Coffee Happy Hour channel using the Sense. If you want to see it in action, that link is down below. But honestly, you've heard enough. This one truly sells itself.
Look, let's be real. For a lot of us, you came into this video not even knowing that Father's Day was coming up, but now you know exactly what to get your dad. The link is down below. Use the code ICED for 40% off as well at chefiq.com. This is the one. Again, chefiq.com with the code ICED for 40% off.
That's the beginning of the end of a society.
Do you think it's reversible?
Yeah. Everything's reversible.
Do you think it's realistically going to be reversed?
Maybe, now that we hit rock bottom by burning to the ground, then maybe we might take a look at somebody like a Rick Caruso versus a Karen Bass and go, we should start thinking about people who do stuff versus sort of ceremonial leaders, which we do sort of ceremonial. Like, well, if she's the first black female, yeah, she's in Ghana. She's not here. She's not interested in whatever.
Yeah.
Aqueducts are boring.
Yeah.
And fire hydrants are boring, and homeless is boring, and trash is boring, and potholes are boring. Going to Ghana and dancing, that's fun.
Do you really think that the Palisades and Eden Fire were rock bottom? Because I could argue, based on what I've seen so far, that it can get a lot worse, especially when it comes to crime and homeless.
The fires were kind of maybe symbolically a rock bottom. There's two parts to the fire, though. There's the destruction that happened that may have been mitigated if we had competent people in place. I don't know that it would have been avoided, but I don't know, 30% better if we figured it out. Mm-hmm. But all right. But then there's going to be the rebuilding process. And that's the part that's going to really piss people off. And that's the part where they're going to demand change, where they're not going to let you do anything.
So from a personal experience, back in the Thomas fire, back in, 2017, my house burned down in Ventura, and rebuilding the house was the biggest pain in the butt ever. I mean, I don't want to out exactly what we did, but they wouldn't give us an occupancy permit because we didn't have proper heating and cooling. But we had no other alternative because insurance companies only pay out for X amount of months for you to have some sort of temporary housing. And building a house with all of the permitting process, the regulatory environment, the city made it incredibly difficult. We weren't grandfathered into a lot of the things that we had previously because the house was built in the 60s. But all of those things that we had benefited from, they're like, oh yeah, we're not going to let you build a house similar to what you had before. You now have to comply with all of these new rules and regulations. Meanwhile, we're not going to let you live into the house until you have AC. But those who know, Ventura, the city, is like the most temperate city ever.
Well, that's the city. And that's also, by the way, the city's in the process of tearing down a beautiful treehouse that was in the front of a home. The Simpsons guy in Sherman Oaks. So they're tearing that down. Meanwhile, you go 2 blocks over and people are building homes, homeless people, out of plywood and yield signs and visqueen under the freeway on the sidewalk. So, moms pushing strollers can walk the street. The city has no interest in these guys building illegal homes on the sidewalk, but they have a grand interest on people building tree houses for the neighborhood kids on their property.
Did you see this story?
No.
The treehouse story? It is insane. This guy, like 30, 40 years ago, was one of the guys from The Simpsons, made this treehouse, beautiful treehouse in the tree. And it's been there, I think, since like the 1980s, 70s.
No, I think it's 20 years
20,
plus.
30, 20 plus. So it's been there, but the city now says he needs to comply with like zoning regulations for the treehouse. He has to pull permits. He needs to do like ground structural testing of the treehouse. He spent $50,000 defending this in court, and it's about to go to a jury. And he says, I give up. I don't want to spend another $50,000 defending myself in a jury just to have the chance of keeping the treehouse.
That's incredible.
It's a treehouse.
There it is right there. Yeah, I see it. That's beautiful.
It's cool. So, it's known as a landmark in the area. Jack, we could drive by it.
I would love to see it. Yeah, we could film some.
You can.
My friend, he has a house in a really nice part of Los Angeles. Right next to his house is a 2-story tent. He's lived in that house now for a couple years. Every single time I drive to his house, you have this massive, like tent mansion, which obviously don't hate me, but like it looks really nice. And the person there is very aggressive. Every time I drive by, this has happened, not every time, but quite a few times, they'll come out of their tent and like start like yelling things. I've seen them yelling at people, pedestrians on the sidewalk, like obscenities. It's not a good situation, but this person, no one stopped them from living there. And it's like I said, like a full-on massive house.
Well, so what we just did is sort of illustrate with the tree house, which the city is very vigorous about and needs to come down, versus the shanty house, which they have no interest in because that guy is an empty bag. He has no money to give them. Now, my feeling is you have to pick a lane as a city. You can either not, here's optimal and then unacceptable. Optimal is places where you would take down the shanty town that is built under the freeway overpass or built on the freeway or whatever in the LA River. Optimal is that the city would enforce that and take down those dangerous structures where people deal drugs and insane people live. All right, take those down. And their policy toward a guy who built a treehouse on his own property would be the guy's paying taxes, people seem to like it, and it looks good from here. He's an American, leave him alone. It's his property. Okay, that's optimal. Middle ground is, look, we're going to let that guy in his visqueen plywood house build on a sidewalk, but if you want to build a tree house, I guess that's your business. At least we're consistent. He'll build something, you'll build something. We won't get involved. LA is the worst, which is not going to do anything about the plywood house on the sidewalk. Full weight of the law on homeowner and taxpayer. That's why people leave. And they don't get it, and they somehow think it's progress or something, but the bluest cities are the toughest on taxpayers and the easiest on criminals.
So if you were governor, what would you change?
The first thing would be the regulatory system. You can't make it impossible to build or start a business or whatever because of the regulatory. So overregulated that people just physically leave. Like that would be number one. Number two, I wouldn't let a handful of nut jobs like the Coastal Commission sort of dictate what's going on all up and down the coast of California. You have 8 or 9 crazy partisan nut jobs canceling billion-dollar projects for desalination plants and things like that because there's a handful of partisan hacks who are angry at their stepdad and they're gonna ruin everything for everyone else. That would be it. I would basically do what the movie industry did, what Hollywood did, is Hollywood had runaway productions. So Hollywood did what every Los Angeles and everything California did, is they just got greedy with everything. So you couldn't shoot a film in Hollywood. All of the actors, all the directors, all the producers, and all of the crew and everything that supports filmmaking lives in Hollywood. And they all went to New Mexico, Atlanta, Prague, or whatever, because they couldn't afford. It was cheaper to move everyone to New Mexico and shoot in New Mexico. And now Atlanta and New Mexico, they have this burgeoning movie industry with all this tax revenue.
They're building one in Las Vegas right now, actually.
They're trying to get the tax credits.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So at some point, the mayor of Los Angeles, they never say greedy. They just went like, oh, we made a few mistakes and we'd like you to come back because we miss the tax base and we miss all the ancillary business and support. We miss the money. So, you know what? We've rethunk some of our things about permits and unions and taxing and we want to make it more hospitable for you guys to come back and make your movies here. And that's fine. That's a correction. And then they made a correction. But it's really hard when Tyler Perry builds 17 million acres in Atlanta to just get Tyler Perry to come back to Los Angeles. They forced these guys to leave. So Gavin Newsom, well, not Gavin Newsom, he's retarded. But if I was the governor, I would go, why are all the car manufacturers leaving? Like, why is everyone taking their corporate headquarters? Like, where are they going and why are they going? And let me get the word out. I want to make things friendlier for them. We will no longer call big businesses and people who create lots of jobs in a tax base evil. We're not going to put a target on their back anymore. We're going to focus more on people who are criminals and aren't paying taxes and are screwing up our cities and make things more hospitable for Toyota or whomever to come do business in our state.